Awesome. Thanks. Hello, everyone. Glad to see people joined in to listen to this talk on designing degrowth, human centered solutions for sustainable African agriculture. Super glad and thankful to Heli and your team for the invitation and also organizing this awesome conference platform for designers and researchers across different continents to really share about their design process and learnings with the general community. So, for the audience, if you have any questions as well as I'm sharing throughout the session, kindly leave that in the chat and I'll respond to that afterwards. For full transparency, I'm having some power outages issues, so I would keep my camera off for the rest of the session and turn it back on just getting to the end of the session to ensure that the session runs smoothly. So let me just do that and we can move right into it. Awesome. I'm still here, by the way. So now back on our topic. The topic of agriculture within the African continent is something that is personally dear to my heart as it underpins the economies of several communities and countries on the African continent. And the topic of degrowth is one that allows us to really take a pause from production and sometimes even overproduction, actually, to really evaluate our actions as human beings to really take care of the earth as it's a source of our sustenance. For today, I would walk us through a research process for a case study that touches on the intersection of agriculture, conservation, and the environment protection lens. Then I will walk us through ways we've learned to conduct research in Africa, grounding our learnings from this particular case study and also abstracting other learnings from similar agricultural projects as well. Then I will share some challenges and lessons of overcoming these barriers to adoption. And finally, the future of ACD and research practices in Africa. So, for introductions, again, very briefly, my name is Sasha Ofori. I am a design researcher and architect research lead based in Ghana, working for a design agency called Yux Design, which I will be introducing briefly in the next couple of slides. And because Yux is an agency, I also get to work on really interesting projects within the health education industry with a tech slant for social development. I am highly impact driven with a focus on the African continent. And this made joining Yux a no brainer for me because at Yux, our mission is making design and research accessible on the African continent. And over the years, youth has grown from a small community of thinkers in 2016 into a Pan-African design community with about 40 full-time employees in different countries on the continent, with some based in Kenya, Rwanda, Nigeria, Senegal, Ghana, Madagascar, and so more actually. And over the years, we've had the privilege of working with large tech organizations such as GSMA, Google, Wikimedia, Meta. However, we still have a primary focus on local startups and champions such as My Agro, Affinity, Stitch, because we believe this is where our mission shines best. So, now that introductions are out of the way on the topic of designing degrowth through the ACD and research lens, I would like to walk us through a case study that intersects agriculture, environment, and conservation space. We worked with a company called Just Dig It, who is on a mission to regreen African landscapes in the next decade. And on that note, I'd like you to meet Mama Aisha. Kindly give her a wave as well. She really loves her accolades. Hello. Mama Aisha is a hardworking and resourceful 48-year-old farmer who lives in the village in Dodoma, Tanzania. She grows maize and keeps goats and chickens for consumption and sale at the local market on Wednesdays. Mama Aisha takes extreme pride in taking care of her 5 hectares of farmland, and she really wants to pass this on in a healthy state to her 5 children as inheritance. But she is currently facing a lot of issues with low crop yield because of changing weather and climate, and her once fertile land turns barren, dry, and really not productive anymore. Mama Aisha's challenge and frustration is part of a global problem where 12 million hectares of productive land is lost annually. And this is caused by excessive agricultural practices, constant production, and little to no restoration, constant overgrazing, which has contributed to damaged soil structure, increased erosion, and reduced soil fertility. And also the vicious cycle of soil degradation where the clouds don't form, the atmosphere heats up. When it eventually does rain, the soil can take in the water, causing floods of nearby farmlands and further soil erosion. And for all of these reasons, Mama Aisha has been working with Just Dig It and other partners such as Lead Foundation in her village, where she's being taught how to take a pause on production and refocus on restoring her barren lands. She's actively working together with other farmer groups using various different traditional techniques, such as creating water bands, as you can see in the image below, which helps capture rainwater and gives the rainwater enough time to enter the soil to restore the water balance. And soon, the seeds in the soil get the chance to sprout and eventually allows the area to grow green again. And her once barren lands is now lush, green, and fertile, ready to support all her farming activities, which is a win win, right? However, there's a need to scale up this degrowth initiative of overproducing, creating more awareness on the need to refocus on restoration of lands and the need to reach out to more farmers across different parts of the country, especially parts of the country where Just Dig It currently does not have a presence. And one way of spreading this idea is in the creation of an application that offers a gamified approach to teach farmers to restore their lands. Farmers will be taught these restoration techniques such as water bands, as I shared in the previous slides, through very interactive quizzes, videos, leaderboards, and they'll also have access to regreen and experts on the platform as well. And all of this can be accessed through their smartphone or their smart feature phones. And most importantly, there is continuation of these restorations without the physical need of NGOs such as Just Dig It continuously being in the communities. Therefore, there's a lasting impact on sustainability. And this is where UX comes in to provide research support using different tools in the HCD process to delve deeper into the educational needs of farmers like Mama Aisha, right? And how to digitize this experience, to understand the cultural context of learning for farmers like Mama Aisha as well, and do more testing on the current usability of the app and its compatibility with the current phones that farmers within the villages of Dodoma and Tanzania are using. Good. With those research goals in mind, I would like to walk you through the process of conducting research in rural areas in Africa, really abstracting our learnings from this project and other similar projects we've worked on to really give you a holistic depth of our learnings. In terms of research prep and logistics, I acknowledge that for every type of research in different contexts, research prep and participant recruitment can be challenging, sometimes even a headache. Also, sometimes participants don't show up for one reason or the other. Therefore, there's a need to have buffer number of participants to ensure the goals of the research are met. In this particular project used, some of our initially scheduled farmers did not show up, right? In other projects, some do show up, but perhaps they need to leave midway, or maybe they are distracted by a crying child, they need to sell their produce, which is perfectly okay if the participants are okay conducting the interview in that way. But then we really rely on our local mobilizers who most of the times are residents within the community and already have relationship with the farmers as well. Therefore, we can rely on them to offer some buffer farmers to provide us with the information in this situation. Also, on logistics, there's an additional layer of complexity where some research locations on the continent, especially within rural areas, are hard to reach. because of bad road network, among other reasons, actually. Most of the time, when working with farmers, we would love to conduct this on their farms or wherever they are, which sometimes might be further away from the already hard to reach communities. Also, on internet connectivity is a continent-wide issue with frequent power outages as well. As I speak, currently in Ghana, we have a nationwide network issue, which, of course, don't get me wrong, is being worked on. But in a case where your field research falls within these times, you always need to have some plan B, some plan C's, plan D's, some plan Z's, all the plans sorted out.
Provide me with an address that I can send it to. Thank you so much for being
Thank you
here.
so much.
Thank you. Everybody's clapping.